we want to have a specific segment where we can really take our shot on some guys. And these aren't players that you're going to want to throw into your lineup willy-nilly. They're probably on your waiver wire, but we want to have the ability to really shoot our shot here. And for guys on Sunday morning or Sunday night, the Robert Woods situation, for example, where he was just announced out right before the game. If you have a desperation play, if you're fighting to get into the playoffs and all the odds are stacked against you, we want to give you some options where you can just take your shot out there, kind of a glory play. And I'm really excited for my first one here because I actually think he's locked in for a pretty high floor this week. And it's the substitute teacher himself, Hunter Renfrow.
Oh my goodness.
In his last 4 games, which have all been very easy matchups, he's averaged 14 fantasy points per game. And on 2 of his last 4 games, he scored a touchdown. This week, he's against the 31st ranked pass defense in the Jets. You just alluded to the ability that the Raiders have with Derek Carr being your start of the week. And that Derek Carr completion percentage, I think, is something that can carry over to every receiver on the Raiders. In his last 4 games, Renfrow was averaging 5 receptions for 62 yards. And based on the recent Raiders outlook, he has a 50-50 shot to score here. I think the Jets hang with the Raiders for a while, longer than I think will project. Now, because Darnold looks good. Jamison Crowder was another start of the week. I think this could be a tougher game for the Raiders than they expect. And we saw what happened when the Cowboys went into MetLife and played the Jets. Jets have the ability to pop off. It's not often, and it's ugly, and I hate that I'm even saying this. But Renfrow, I think, is a safe flex play if you're desperate this weekend. Alex, what do you think?
I think you actually make a really good case for Hunter Renfrow. Especially in PPR formats, probably exclusively PPR formats is the only place you're playing him.
Yes.
But knowing how Derek Carr likes to play, we just talked earlier about how he has a 72% completion percentage, second in the league. He throws a ton of passes underneath, and he might take an occasional deep shot to Tyrell Williams. So Hunter Renfrow, I think, is a perfectly fine play. I think he's safe. I think if you're in super desperation mode and you're looking for a guy that you can rely on for 8 points in your flex, just someone that's not going to kill you with a 1 or a 2 or a 0, I think you can plug in Hunter Renfrow. So great pick there, Steph. Great find. That's a great deep shot. Moving to my first deep shot, it's kind of on the other end of the spectrum. This is a deep shot if you are looking for upside. Hunter Renfrow is great if you're looking for safety, but if you need a high-scoring week, maybe you're close in the standings and points for with some tiebreakers with other teams in your league as you push towards the playoffs, and you're in desperation mode, and you need a guy who could pop off for 30 points. That's where this first guy comes into play. But he could also get 0. He could also get 5. So he's not very safe, but this player is Russell Gage for the Atlanta Falcons. He has really stepped in and seen a pretty good percentage of snaps since they traded Mohamed Sanu. He's played over 55% of snaps in their past 2 weeks. And this is a game where I expect him to see even more snaps because they're playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're last against the league against receivers in fantasy football. So I think they're going to be passing a lot. I think they're going to pass early and often, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. It's a 52-point over-under, and Russell Gage is owned in less than 1% of ESPN leagues, so he is on your waiver wire for sure. And he's seen 4.5 targets in those past 2 weeks as well. So I think there's a chance that if he's efficient with his targets and he could break loose, there's a really good potential for Russell Gage to maybe have an anomaly of a game and find the end zone this week and maybe be super involved if the Buccaneers focus on shutting down Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. With no Sanu, no Austin Hooper due to injury, and then no Devontae Freeman, I think the Falcons are looking for offensive production anywhere they can get it, and I think Russell Gage could continue to step into that wide receiver 3 role and have a meaningful game this week in a great matchup.
I think that's a great high upside pick. We saw what Calvin Ridley had, one of the best games of his career. I think he was the wide receiver 1 or 2 at the end of week 11, so we could definitely see that go the other way towards some of those touches with Russell Gage. My second deep shot here is kind of reliant on a few injuries, a few guys being out, and that pick is Nelson Aguilar. We've seen him have monster games when Carson Wentz relies on him. You can see sometimes when those two guys are just meshing very early in the game, you see many targets his way. Philly's going to need to air it out to keep up with Seattle, like we said, and Seattle's the 20th ranked passing defense. Jordan Howard might play, but he's banged up. Alshon Jeffrey practiced today in individual drills. Not sure if he's going to play. So if those two guys are out, if Alshon is out, I think Aguilar will be the number 2 behind Ertz with major scoring potential, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for 5 for 50 and a touchdown. So I know it's not a sexy pick again by any means, but Nelson Aguilar, if Alshon Jeffrey's out, if you need to plug him in, I think he'll be fine this week.
I really like that pick, Steph, and we've seen it from Aguilar before. Earlier this season, he had a game for 8 catches, 107 yards, and a touchdown. He followed that up the next week with 8 catches for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 24 and then 23 fantasy points, and that was when we saw a lot of other injuries to that Eagles receiving core and good matchups. So like you said, if Alshon Jeffrey misses, we know Deshaun Jackson is on IR. I think that's a really sneaky play. I will say you need to keep an eye on Aguilar himself. He did not practice today due to an injury that he came out of that Patriots game with. So I think you're needing to keep an eye not only on Alshon Jeffrey and his status, but keep an eye on Aguilar as well to make sure he's in this week. But if Aguilar plays and Alshon Jeffrey doesn't, I think that's a great pick. So for my second deep shot, I'm going to go with a guy who we all know and love. Well, we might not love him, but we know him. He's been in and out of the news over the past several seasons. It seems like every year there's some drama with this guy and there's something new. We know he has elite talent, but we haven't really seen him tap into that talent and that opportunity since 2013 or 2014, and it's Josh Gordon. He recently was picked up by the Seattle Seahawks. They claimed him on waivers after the Patriots cut him off IR, and in his first game in Seattle, he only had 2 catches on 2 targets. But he really didn't play a lot of snaps, and that's customary when you get a guy who hasn't been on the team for a long time. A lot of times you don't play a lot of snaps, you're learning the offense, you're learning the playbook, but it's interesting, when we did see those 2 catches from Josh Gordon, he looked great. It looked like he had a rapport with Russell Wilson, and it was late in the game. One was on a key drive in the 4th quarter, and then another was in overtime. So they obviously trust Josh Gordon to be a playmaker, and I think coming off of their bye week, as is, he should see more snaps and more targets this week. But Tyler Lockett is also banged up and was actually in the hospital after their last game. So if Tyler Lockett misses this game, I think Josh Gordon's a must start. I have Josh Gordon on my bench in our fantasy league, and I'm kind of waiting and seeing. They got a great matchup against the Eagles. They're 23rd against fantasy wide receivers. And if Tyler Lockett misses this game, Russell Wilson's going to be throwing the ball a lot, and it's going to be going to DK Metcalf and to Josh Gordon. So if Tyler Lockett misses, I think you definitely plug Josh Gordon in. As is, if Tyler Lockett does play, I think I would probably take some of the other guys we've talked about, like Renfrow or Russell Gage, over Josh Gordon. But keep an eye on the injury report, see what happens with Tyler Lockett, because if he's out, I think Josh Gordon is a really sneaky start this week.
Yeah, that's a great deep shot there, and I think Russell Wilson will need large targets. We love seeing him throw to Will Dissly and him really be effective in fantasy. When they get down to the red zone and to the end zone, I think that's when Josh Gordon is going to see the most value. I could 100% see him scoring at least 1 touchdown this weekend.